Hey, it's Bevan James Eyles here with Fitness Thoughts. I have one job every lunchtime, and that is to make my lunch, or actually make the lunch of my partner Jo and mine. She makes dinner, I make lunch. And every day I pretty much make the same thing. There's not much variety in my life. I make wraps every day. And a while ago I noticed this little behaviour that had slipped into my lunch making kind of moment in my day. And I'm going to call it my little letdowns. And what is my little letdowns? Well, basically, when I was making my lunch, one day I kind of realised I was eating quite a bit of food as I was preparing my lunch. As I'd chop up this cheese for the wraps, I'd just put a little bit in my mouth. When I was chopping up the tomatoes, I'd put a little bit in. Whatever the meat was I was having in my lunch that day, I just kind of put a bit in as I was eating my lunch. And one day when I became aware that I was doing this, like to be honest, I didn't even know that I was doing it. And one day I became aware that I was doing it. So the next day, what I thought I'd do is every time I was going to put something in my mouth, I just put it aside on a side plate to see how much food I was actually consuming while I was preparing the wraps for our lunch. Well, it was mind-blowing. I had added an extra quarter to the size of my meal that I ate at lunch every day in my food preparation little letdowns, those little kind of nibbles that I was having in my lunch. It was a whole quarter on top of my lunch. Now, if you were to ask me at that time what I eat for lunch, I would have told you I had a wrap, some fruit, and a couple of biscuits. But actually, I was actually having another quarter on top of my meal because of my little letdowns. My little letdowns are those moments in your day where you subconsciously do behaviors that you don't even know you're doing, but they have a cost or an effect on your behaviors or the outcome that you desire in your life. Like if you want to lose weight and your weight is something you're working on, and you were to stop and be aware of these kind of preparation moments in your day, and you realize you're having a whole extra quarter of a meal just in your preparation because you were nibbling away, well, that's obviously an area we need to address. If you're someone who comes home after a day of work and you grab a glass of wine and you think you have one glass of wine, but you actually top it up a couple of times and it ends up being two glasses of wine, well, that's another example of my little letdowns. When we think about my little letdowns, if we're going to define it, we're going to say it's those moments where I do behaviors that I don't even know that I'm doing them, but they have an effect on my health. Now, when you think about yourself, where are your little letdowns in your day? Maybe a cool little exercise to do over the next period of time is for you to stop and just kind of do an outside look at yourself as you're in those moments where you make choices in your life. It might be like me when you're preparing your lunch. It might be when you're having that glass of wine and you put a little bit extra in. It might be that you think you go to bed at 10 o'clock, but actually you end up staying up till 10:30, so you lose half an hour sleep each night. My little letdowns are those little behaviours that, in a way, they don't seem that bad at the moment, but if they chunk on top of each other day after day, they do have an effect on the outcome of our lives. And when we think about how we change our little outcomes, my little letdowns, we want to have some really cool strategies. And I'll talk about what I did with my one. So I kind of made the strategy. I realized that actually by the time I got to lunch, I was often hungry by the time I prepared my lunch. So one thing I did is I just had a small glass of milk just before I started preparing my lunch. So I felt a little bit of fullness first before I started eating my lunch. I preloaded that I wasn't going to eat. I kind of determined to myself, I have a rule that I don't eat while I'm preparing lunch. And I also just saw myself not putting the food in my mouth, saw myself putting it aside or throwing it in the bin and getting rid of it as soon as possible. These little strategies made it really easy for me to get rid of that my little letdown and that extra quarter of the meal that I was having at lunchtime. Again, my little letdowns are these little moments that we're not aware of, but that actually have a massive effect on our health. If we can start to learn when they're happening and we can develop strategies to move around them, then they slowly will dissolve away from our life and you'll find it's easier to manage the place where you like to be within yourself. So if you've got some homework for this couple of weeks in this fitness thoughts, I'd say learn when you have little letdowns. Develop some strategies to overcome those letdowns and practice those strategies. It'd be really interesting to see what the effects on your health will be when you remove your little letdowns from your daily life. Right, team, that's the latest fitness thoughts with Bevan James Eyles. If you want to check out any of my work, you can go to bevanjameseyles.com. You can also check out or share my work. You can go to Facebook, Twitter, and all those things. Share it around as much as you want to. And if you have any thoughts on this, send me a link or send me an email or write a comment in this post. And if you want to check out any of my other work, you can go to Bevan James Eyles. And also, if you want to become a patron of my work, it's all on Bevan James Eyles as well. And that's patron is just a way that you can support me in what I'm doing. Other than that, I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks with the next Fitness Thoughts. Just remember, it's every second Monday I release a new Fitness Thoughts. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks. See ya.